Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here. Hello, and greetings and welcome. We haven't filmed in a little while.
No.
And it's taken a minute just to remember how everything works.
Yeah, who are you?
Get out of here.
You get...
Didn't I used to do this show with Danish Pete? What the hell? Anyway, please subscribe and click the button and subscribe. It really does help. And please go to That Pedal Show store and buy some merch.
Yeah.
It's the primary way we fund this show, rather than having to take any bags of cash and wash them through illegal businesses.
Yeah. We're not here to judge, but that's just not the way we're doing it.
I don't know. I've just watched The Gold is what that's all about.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Very good.
Sorry. What are we doing today then, Dan?
We are going to have a look at the tri-stereo chorus and how we got there. And I've done a, what do we call it? A deconstruction of the circuit, as it were.
Yeah. So explain to us what tri-chorus is then and how we might have heard it.
Tri-chorus was massive in the 80s. The idea behind it is you've got 3 separate delay lines and you could put them anywhere in the mix and, you know, all that stuff.
If that sounds odd, watch one of our old videos on what is chorus. Chorus is made using delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that sounds odd.
Yeah. So what I thought we could do though, we'll start at the beginning of the chorus journey and get to the tri-stereo chorus.
Yeah, and you might recognise it. What was it called?
Dyno My Piano.
There you go. Which, when you're thinking of a name for an effects pedal,
Dyno My Piano.
Was it a 1 unit rack unit?
Yeah.
And in later years, Full Tone made a version of it as well, called That Tri-Chorus, was it called?
Yeah.
I'll put it on the screen what the Full Tone one. We do actually own one, but it's with Simon, who sold me that Strat. So hello, Simon, if you watch this.
Fabulous.
And then latterly, we know the Tri-Avatar from Free the Tone,
yes,
which is a great example of the breed.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Very cool. So, yeah, we'll get to the tri-stereo chorus, but for anyone that's wondering, you know, chorus and stuff, we'll get there from the start. What's going on here is we've got Juggler preamp, and then that signal is being split 4 ways.
With your handy Sharpie work
like
on
that?
the splitting box.
Exactly, the splitting box.
Yeah.
3 of those are going into diamonds and then into the mixer. 1 of them is going directly into the mixer. So we have a direct signal and then 3 modulated signals. But we're also splitting 1 of the modulated signals so we can do the proper 3 thing.
3 thing.
All right.
Why diamond?
Because it's my favorite vibrato and I happen to have 3 of them.
And vibrato, why?
So, okay. Vibrato is really important when we're talking about chorus. What the vibrato is, and when we talk about delay lines and chorus, if you imagine that you've got a slapback delay, right? You play a note and then it gets delayed. That the delay line is what is actually doing the modulation, what is making the pitch go, because what's happening is there's a little LFO attached to the time. Exactly. Elephant trunk.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about a delay line with chorus, we're talking about the part of the circuit that gives us the modulation, the pitch shifting.
Can we just demonstrate that then?
Yes, absolutely. So if we just hear, let's turn off my direct signal. So here is just a single delay line. Actually, I'll turn this off. So this is without any modulation.
Let's turn the reverb off as well.
Okay.
Just so that it's not confusing, because there may well be some modulation in the reverb.
Okay, so here's just guitar straight into the, well, we're going through the Juggler preamp.
Explain that in a minute.
Into the, yeah, so.
So that's a very short delay.
That's right.
Being modulated in time.
Yeah.
The delay is getting ever so slightly shorter and longer, and that's what's creating the idea of the pitch change.
Exactly. If you have any delay pedal and you take your delay time and just wiggle it backwards and forwards, you will hear that oscillation.
Exactly the same as if you've ever got a delay pedal and you do it massively.
Yeah.
And it's like, woo, what on earth is that?
That's exactly right.
In big. So then if we then add the dry sound back into that. A very extreme chorus.
Very extreme chorus.
Just briefly then, the reason we're using the Juggler, it's an actual guitar preamp, and what you can see on top of the 2-rock there is a power amp. So we're running into the power amp from the preamp. Similarly, we're running into the effects loop return of the 2-rock, which is why there's no cable in the front of it. So this is doing the same job that your guitar preamp would do. We just happen to have it on the pedal board.
Yeah. The knobs on your amplifier on the board. So what I want to do to get started, if we can turn off the center amplifier, we'll do the, just so you guys can hear, one of the massive things that happened when Boss came out with the CE1, that chorus sound that we know and love, I mean, people hadn't really heard it up to that point, but what they did, which was a game changer, was the ability, there it is, my beloved, my
actual
precious.
CE1. This pedal is really interesting because it made Dan start the GigRig, didn't it?
Yep,
Yeah,
it sure
there you go.
did.
That's what a Boss CE1 used to look like, and still does.
Yeah. So, and you'll see here, right, this is what's fascinating with this pedal. You've got 2 outputs, right? Your input, 2 outputs. If you're using mono and you just go straight into your amplifier, what you get is what we just heard, right? The dry signal and the vibrato signal together, you get chorus. But if you go out of left and right, both of the outputs, it separates the dry signal from the vibrato signal. Now, the classic Roland chorus to the JC120, it's a wonderful example of this. When people heard the chorus circuit in that, which is exactly the same circuit that's in the CE1, and I heard it, this massive, lush sound, because the JC120 actually has a stereo power amp. And when you turn the chorus on, it separates the vibrato to one side and your direct sound in the other, which is why when people heard this amplifier, it sounded 3D.
It was proper wet dry.
Proper wet dry.
Before anyone was using the term, in a way.
So we've got the center amp is now off. We're just going to be going to the outside too. So if I turn on my dry signal into the outside 2 amplifiers, now I'm going to pan the dry signal to 1 amp. And I'm going to put the vibrato in the other, so just so that you can hear just the vibrato in the other amp. Now, when we mix them together, you get
It's literally one of his favourite sounds ever. That very traditional, early Bucket Brigade style chorus.
Yeah.
But done where the 2 things are separate.
Exactly right. It sounds so big without being loud. And it's not that we're quiet, but it just, that separation just gives you this sense of...
The people will be sparking, Daniel.
Right. So that was what happened with the JC120, right? We've got that vibrato on one side, the direct sound on the other, massive.
Birth of chorus.
Birth of chorus.
To the point that it was called chorus.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happened then was in the late 70s, some clever clog said, well, if we do that with one delay line, what happens if we add two?
Because it is a big, thick, syrupy, soupy sound, isn't it?
Exactly. So what's better than one big, thick, syrupy, soupy sound? Let's add another on top. And so we have the rack mount Dimension D.
Oh, yeah.
Which gives us these two separate delay lines. Now, what's really interesting about the Dimension D and then subsequently into the Dimension C is that they're just 4 buttons and they give you different depths and I think this is a speed constant. Well, different depths and speeds, but they're presets.
And there's an interesting relationship with phase with the Dimension products as well. So please go back and watch our old videos that we've done on the Dimension products. It's not exactly the same thing, but it is the dual delay line.
Exactly. So what I'll do, I'm going to put one vibrato in one side and then a separate vibrato in the other without any direct signal at the moment.
Yeah.
Right? So we're just going to hear 2 separate vibratos. So here's the first one. And here is the second one. Now, when I put them together, you get this.
Obviously, it's an extreme version of it because the depth is turned up a lot, right?
Exactly. But I just want you guys to be able to hear it. And then, then what I'm going to do now is there's no direct sound there. That is 2 delay lines moving against each other. So they're chorusing naturally against each other.
Yeah, and because the vibratos are different, you are getting a chorusing effect.
Completely.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now when I add the direct sound in, so I'll take one of them out. Add it back in.
It's 80s-tastic.
So
Actually, it's not just 80s, actually. It's before that, isn't it? It just reminds me of those flangy rock tones as well.
Completely. So, yes. 80s guitar sounds, so Mike Landau, Steve Lukather, you know.
And it wasn't always that obvious as well. Like, we're presenting quite an extreme version of it yet, and we're not even into the tri-chorus at the moment.
Exactly.
It's just stereo.
It's just stereo chorus.
But where you then started to hear it was right across mix buses, on vocals,
right.
everywhere, but really, really subtle, just to give the thing a bit of fatness and movement.
Because we're going to get there. We're going to add some subtle things in there so that you can hear it's just not, this overwhelming thing. But I just want you to get a flavour of of what's going on, and with really full-on vibrato sounds. What then happened in the 80s was we had the ability to separate preamps and power amps and have a bunch of different configurations. What we're going to do now, we're going to turn the center amp on. So what was happening there, we had vibrato in the left, vibrato in the right, and the direct sound into both sides.
Yeah, so it was present in the same place.
Exactly. What we're going to do now, we're going to turn the center amp on. We're going to go direct in the center amp, vibrato in the left and vibrato in the right.
Yeah.
So there'll be no direct signal in the left and right. Direct will be the center only.
Okay.
Okay.
Why don't you start with the wet sound only then, and I'll switch the amp on while you're playing, so you can really hear the difference that adding the dry in makes.
Okay.
So a stereo chorus in the outside.
Stereo chorus.
Well, strictly speaking, dual mono chorus, panned left and right.
Yeah, this is proper wet, dry, wet.
Yeah.
Right? Dry, signal in the middle, stereo, wet, left and right.
The
It's a
EQs
huge
on the
thing.
amps are different, just to make that point as well. Like
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the amplifiers, the two rock's a bit brighter, I think. But anyway.
Yeah. So, the SD, not the SDE, the Dimension D, Dimension C, we had those two delay lines, which was really cool. Then the clever people.
I wonder what we could do next.
Exactly. What do we need? Thicker and soupier. So now we get to the tri stereo chorus.
It's interesting when you say soupier, though, because I mean, maybe you're going to come on to talk about this, but I think then what happens is when you're running dual lines and then three lines, you get all kinds of weird phase cancellation, and it ends up sounding thinner and more metallic after a while.
Exactly. So what I've been doing up to this point is I've had very different depth and speed so that we can hear the difference in the vibrato. What I'm going to do now is, as close as I possibly can, I'm going to match the speed up.
Okay.
So that we can hear them moving in and out.
Yeah.
And then this is where it gets really interesting, because the natural thing on these delay lines is they do, because they move around a bit. They're their own, independent thing, and they do create this phase relationship within the delay lines. It's the same thing that's going on with the flanger, the Red Wing,
Yeah.
having those two delay lines with the delays tied, that you can change very slightly the speeds between them.
Yeah, and important to say, in some of that old gear as well, it wasn't just a perfect sine wave.
Oh, very much.
The wave was, in some respects, all over the place.
Yeah. And it's similar, actually, one of the reasons with the dime vibrato is it is old school LFO, and that does have the funny, the wave shape. So we've got the third amp on now. Do we? I'm assuming we do.
Affirmative.
Affirmative. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'll get you to put that on standby. I'm going to get these two outside vibrato to be as close as I can, and we'll hear what happens with that phase relationship. So can you play for us, Mick? That would be really handy. So you can hear they come in and then they separate and then they come back in. So now if you play and I just add a bit of the direct sound.
Yeah,
right?
At the moment the middle amp is still turned off.
That's right.
The center amp.
So again, what I want to do, I'm going to turn the center amp on and kill the dry to the outside too. It's an amazing thing.
It's the hugeness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we need now?
Well,
we need a third delay line.
So just to recap then. So you've tried to make the chorusing and the outside two kind of similar.
Yes.
The middle one is now dry.
The middle one is now dry.
And then we are going to add one to the middle one.
We're going to add one to the middle. So we've got vibrato panned hard left and right. Now we're going to add a center one.
This will help me in the audio mix.
Okay. want you to keep playing, because now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start panning the delay lines, right?
Right.
So we've got 3 separate delay lines to 3 separate, like left, right, and center. I'm going to take the outside pair. I'm going to start bringing them into the center.
Goodness gracious.
All right.
How does that affect how I pan the audio then?
Just
leave them?
Just leave it.
Leave them left and right.
Exactly. And then, yeah.
Insane.
It's
I mean, it's not that loud, right? What's the dB mix? Whoever the hell that goes. It puts me in the mind of every one of those melodic 80s guitar solos.
So what I'm going to do, just quickly to finish this off, I've reduced the depth a bit, right? So it becomes more of a thick now. I'm going to reduce it just a little bit more, and now I'm going to put some direct signal back into the outside pair.
Okay.
And then this, you won't instantly recognize it as a chorus, just a way to make it thicker.
Right.
So I will, because what I've got here with these 2 controls, I've got the ability to blend in as much of that modulated signal as I want.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. In which case, when I play, I'll play, and then when you're happy with the sound, I'll switch over and you have a play.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the center amp. I'm going to bring in the direct sound of the outside 2, and then I'm going to bring the vibrato in on the outside 2. Okay. Oh, man.
It's mad. It's mad. Can we just do one final thing?
Of course.
This is the depth control, right?
Correct.
So if I take it back to, I'm going to try and take it back to almost nothing.
Yep.
I mean, it is pretty low at the moment.
Yeah.
But I did turn them off. I turned them off so they were completely gone.
Yep.
I'm just going to see how far back. Will it go to 0, do you think?
It'll go very close to 0.
Yeah, give it. Do you want? We'll start clean.
Yep.
So you can if you don't want to hear overdrive sound, we'll start clean. It's in there.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I'll just bring them up and just, because even it being in there makes it sound awesome with the speed and depth both on 0. How good is this sounding? Pretty special, that.
Man, it's
really special, actually. Sounding lovely today. Killer, man. That's really great. I personally am a massive fan of that very, very low level of effect.
Yeah.
And
as a thickener, as just a little bit of movement, it's amazing what it does.
And you almost get to the point where one of those really cool things, almost like a very subtle slap where you forget that it's on after a while and it's just a fat sound. A great way, I think, if you're certainly in these days of low volume or lower volume, should we say, if you want to sound fatter in rock underneath choruses and things like that, because it's not unusual to have some of these things used in post, in mixes, to thicken, fatten. If you're a one guitar person in a band, without or even with keys, but if you're the predominant melody instrument, it's a great way to thicken and sound bigger.
Yeah.
Or go full on and 80s-tastic.
Yeah. And you don't have to go 80s-tastic with this, but exactly as you're saying, it's a wonderful way to help just bring out the guitar a little bit more without necessarily having to raise the volume. Yeah. So there we go.
Killer, mate, that was awesome.
Really fun.
I think I've always been confused about what tri-chorus actually is.
Right.
As distinct from multi-voice choruses where it's all mono.
Right.
So separating it out and panning it.
Yeah.
Center, left and right if you want to do that.
I think a lot of so the Tri-Avatar and a lot of the other stereo chorus are left and right, as we had at the start.
Yeah.
One of the things about the Dynamo piano chorus is you did have 3 separate outputs.
Yeah.
And then you could pan them.
But annoyingly, it was mono in.
Oh, exactly.
It was really tremendously annoying if you're trying to use it in post-production, but anyway.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
There we go.
Happy days.
Happy days indeed.
All right, please subscribe. Thank you very much to anyone that's gone to That Pedal Show store and bought merch. It's the primary way we fund this show, and it kind of keeps the lights on, so please continue to do that.
Yes, massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon. We appreciate you all so much. Monthly giveaways and other very cool behind-the-scenes stuff for our patrons.
Yep, go there. Thank you to our retailers, exclusive preferred retailers. Click the link down and you'll see links to those. If you buy something from any of those guys, it helps us too, so thank you very much for that. Yeah, truckfuls of cash. In fact, I think I can just hear one arriving now.
Beep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
As if. I believe that's it.
That's it. Thanks a lot.
We'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.